In this episode, you'll get a breakdown of the quote. Miscommunication is more about the sender than the receiver. Welcome to Energy Alignment for Entrepreneurs, the podcast helping online service-based entrepreneurs reduce stress, balance emotions, and grow a profitable business in less time. I'm your host, Justin Igliskis. Let's get into it. 3 things you'll discover today. How to let the receiver of communication guide you to enhance your delivery. When to listen, when to stand your ground, and when to walk away. The biggest cause of miscommunication is not listening, but how most humans define listening is completely incorrect. As we've gotten so used to thinking instead of actually hearing. What I define listening as is hearing something. The way that I describe the word hearing is to be so empty of your own projections while listening that you actually are in the same place as the person communicating. Meaning that the you, the sense of self, the ego, the I, the me, which we refer to when we think in our own mind, that thought is not processing. You're so free of your projecting onto them that you can actually hear them. Or you're doing the step which gets you to that place, which is, let's say you're communicating with someone like me, we're having a conversation, and then you're thinking while you're listening, but you're actually hearing your own thinking as you're listening. That is a step, because this means that you're at least beginning to be aware of that process which cuts off real communication, true communion. You have to be able to listen to let compassion into your heart. Because if you can't actually hear where they're standing, how would you be able to have compassion for them, right? Compassion is you putting yourself in their shoes. You can't do that if your past memory, experiences, and knowledge are being projected into the moment in which the listening could occur. So to listen, we first have to listen to our own psyche, be aware of our own projections and our thoughts, and how our memory creates the sense of self. And if you can cut through the sense of self, then you can enter the new realist realm, which is still in the material world, but you're on a new wavelength. And that means that you can hear someone and create space. So when you listen to them, it's almost easier for them to get to the root that they need to get to. Now, I'm speaking to you in the context that we're at least a little bit aware. There are many people who just, good Lord, I don't know when this work will start for them, but that's not for me to control. So therefore, I don't place any judgment on those individuals who may seem to be extraordinarily disconnected from a source. That's okay, right? They're on their own path. And this is part of listening to yourself, is noticing your own judgments, right? And so I'm not above anyone, and I just clarify that for both me and you. Now, when to listen, when to stand your ground, and when to walk away, right? Because if we're talking about miscommunication, one of the biggest pitfalls is like guilt and shame keeping you communicating when there isn't any clarity to be had. Like, that's when you need to walk away. If you're in a situation, I'll tell you a little story from yesterday. This was beautiful. And the context is my sister comes home and she feels a certain way, and I'm smooth, so I feel a certain way too. And there was a conflict between her and I in terms of she wasn't as smooth as I, and I wasn't as rigid as her. So therefore there's a conflict. And I just gave her a little jab, a gentle jab, and I said, well, that's your perspective. And I went to the bathroom. A few minutes later, I could tell she was fuming. She was in her room yelling. And I opened the door. And when I opened the door, she's fuming at me, actually. But it wasn't, here, we'll pause, we'll go slow. Because my old thought process would be guilt and shame and fear, right? I created that in her. But the realization of actually communicating with yourself clearly is that I had the space to stand in that room, even though she was fuming at me, and not send back what she was sending. So she's mad, she's angry. That's just the word. I'm not actually like judging her. I'm using language to describe something which is energy in motion, emotion. And so as this is going on, I'm just listening, right? She says a few personal things that are attacking me, but I know that she's not really meaning to attack me, so therefore I keep listening. I don't get offended. I can feel what she's feeling, sure. I could feel the lack of space, the tension, but I let it move. I just noticed it and let it be there. And as I keep listening to her, I ask her just a gentle question like, oh, it was that phrase that kind of made you feel that way? She was like, yeah. And then she kept going, kept going. And I gave her space. I listened. And I really listened. I wasn't projecting. I was just listening. And then we get to a place in the conversation where I can feel she's starting to loosen up, the thing's starting to dissipate. And I just go over on one knee and I just hold her. And this was a little bit after I implied to her, like, what's happening there is I'm just gently probing you. I'm giving you a challenge, Liv, because I love you. I'm giving you a challenge that I can't give most people because I know they're not even aware enough to receive the challenge. And so that sometimes you'll see yourself be used. If you're truly connected, you'll see yourself be used as an instrument to trigger and release things in others. But then the favorite part for me is that I both triggered it and created the space with her to dissolve it. That created a spiritual, a real, a honest joy in my heart that is so priceless. That's the meaning to life. If I'm going to tell you it right now, I'm not saying it's that situation, that context with your sister. That's the logical mind being like, oh yeah, details. No, the point is the joy that's derived from real presence. Okay. Now I digress, but that story, I feel at least one person, if that story hit you in your heart, just one of you, let's go. That's what this is about. And a little bit about me. I won't go too long, but that's my message. I don't care how many people this hits, but I know each week, each episode, if one word I say, if one sentence I say creates just a moment of space in your heart and your being, I'm doing what I need to do. So even though I shared that story, it was coming from the point of when to stand your ground, when to listen, when to walk away. And intuitively, that was a when to walk away and then when to listen. So I walked away to go to the bathroom, and then in the bathroom, I just had this intuitive sense. I walk upstairs, go in the room, like talk to her. And that was when to listen. And then you'll have when to stand your ground. And this is intuitive, but you got to sector it out just a little bit. And it's not that complicated. There are going to be moments where you can feel, okay, I'm meant to feel this energy that they're radiating. I'm not going to judge them. So let's listen. Let's go through it together. Then sometimes you have to stand your ground because someone's extraordinarily confused, lost, or strongly projecting out of fear, anger, and insecurity. Sometimes you have to stand your ground. But remember, it's never one thing. Like you might stand your ground for a second and then listen for a second and then walk away, right? So sometimes that's how it works. This isn't the type of thing that I can just say, do this, do this, do this, because we're talking about real intelligence, wisdom, and truth, which is inherently in your being. So I'm not teaching you. I'm just maybe sharing something that you need to hear to teach yourself. The only thing I can do for you is give you a spark potentially, right? But that spark could be fruitful because if you run with the spark, then it's your flame, right? I can't give you my flame, but I could spark you and then see if you're strong enough to keep your flame going. Now, how to let the receiver of communication guide you to enhance your delivery. And this is really, let's tie it into the quote as well, because miscommunication is more about the sender than the receiver. So what we have to kind of understand is that if you're in a limited space, you are the projector, you're the sender. But the place that you actually are more naturally going to flourish through is being the receiver, being the one who is open. And the cool thing about this, as a man who is aggressive, like I've been an athlete, I played football, I've hit people hard, jujitsu, boxing, like I can kill some people. Not everyone, right? I know there's John Jones, but I could kill some people. That being said, that gives me the material confidence to be the receiver more often, right? Because then I know I've got myself taken care of. So this life is not about you. This life is about humanity. And when you start to realize that there's nothing more important to a human being than being heard and understood, like in their heart, no matter if they're a felon and they've killed and murdered people, or if they're a loving mother who's over-coddled their kids, or a professor who's dived deep into the realm of logic and has disconnected his heart from source. When you are capable of surrendering and stopping the need to be the one who is always listened to, but to be the one who actually understands, right? There's this prayer, Lord, God, Allah, Buddha, whatever your thing is, Lord, help me to understand, not to be understood. This life is so much more about feeling, creating space, and through a deeper awareness, a connection to the source, letting that open your heart so that you share that with the world. Because obviously, technologically, especially with AI, our logical mind is not going to be more powerful than the supercomputers, okay? But there's one thing that the supercomputers can never have, and that's consciousness. That's source connection. That's the ability to notice that you're both the clouds and the sky. But the sky is what you really are, but the clouds is what it really feels like you are. Can you notice how the clouds arise? Can you see what feelings and energy the clouds bring? So I'll leave you with that. And let's hop into the recap. We'll start with what the biggest cause of miscommunication truly is. And we all have our ideas, our past, our tradition, and so on. But you need to question all that. You can't actually listen when you're thinking in relationship to what you're hearing. Learn to listen without thought. Just listen, and then when it's time to speak, you can flow. Word by word, moment by moment. Now, when to listen, when to stand your ground, and when to walk away. If the conversation is open or somewhat neutral, then it'll probably be best to listen. Honestly, listening needs to be the priority until you realize the conversation has no space for change. Only then do you state a fact or stand your ground and naturally understand it's time to exit. Let listening be the ground you stand on 99% of the time. So, how to let the receiver of communication guide you to enhance your delivery. Clear communication is founded upon listening. Who said that? As you listen to your mind's own reactions to what you're hearing, you'll get clearer and clearer on what corrupts you from communicating with a pure, honest, and open essence. Cool. Yeah? Summary. The three main causes of miscommunication are not paying attention to the subconscious communication of the person you're speaking to, thinking while in a conversation, not actually listening, but just merely thinking to respond. It's very shallow, very shallow. Not questioning your own projections the moment they arise. If you notice and pay attention to your own projections, you'll naturally learn, and the conditioning which creates the projections can fall away. I appreciate you guys, really. Thank you so much. All this needs to do is hit one of you. One of you. Thank you for listening. Now, new episodes are out Monday, Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'm working on a new offer. Essentially, this is for online entrepreneurs. And I think what I'll do is I'll link you the document in the description so you can read a bit and see if you're interested, see if it resonates with you. But yeah, I'll do that. Speak soon. Share it with a friend if you enjoy and you know someone who you think it would be valuable for. Really, big hug. Let's go.